Alright, so today we're doing a $750 gaming PC build guide. That's right, $750 pure gaming PC build guide. So this is going to be a long format video because I have to explain all the parts. It's a guide and I don't want to skip out on any important information or details, especially for new timers or beginners. But if you don't have the time of day, I understand. I'll have timestamps up. But seriously, grab something to eat, enjoy yourself, sit back, relax, and just watch the video because this is going to be a long video. So with that being said, let's get into it. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is JD from JDTechGear and welcome back to the channel where we discuss PC patch reviews, guides, mods, and more. So if you're into that sort of thing, consider subscribing and checking out the rest of the channel. Alright, so the parts overview. Let's get into why I bought these parts and understanding market prices. So guys, understand the PC market prices go up and down all the time. It's kind of volatile. Now, everything on here is $750, but I don't have everything on the table. The only thing I don't have is the hard drive. I mean, I do have a hard drive, but it's not on the table. So you can sneak in maybe a 1 to 2 terabyte drive between the $40 and $65 price mark, depending on what kind of sale or deal that you can find. So that's included into the overall price. So depending on the price of what you're buying all these parts at, you can potentially get this for even less than $750. All right, so for our CPU, we have the Intel i3-8100, a fantastic gaming processor. It's only 4 cores, no hyper-threading, nothing like that, but it's optimized for every single game. You don't have to worry about optimization issues. 4 cores, around 3.7 gigahertz boost clock. This is a great CPU, especially just for FPS to dollar performance. We're not worried about productivity. We're not worried about streaming, nothing like that. We just want FPS. And if we want the most FPS for the dollar, I believe the 8100 is the right thing to do. Now you can find these for around $120. Sometimes they're a little bit more expensive, like right now, just because of the CPU shortage from Intel, which is running them for around $130. I don't recommend buying them at that price. So for $120 and even for around $100, I would recommend these. You can find them on sale for sometimes even $90 if you're lucky. But yeah, great processor all around, most FPS to dollar value that I've seen pretty much with any processor. Highly optimized, great clock speeds. It's a true powerhouse for a gaming PC and just gaming at that. Slotting in that CPU, we have the Biostar B360 GT5S motherboard. Now I did a full review of this motherboard in case you want to check it out and understand why I like this motherboard so much. It's $100, but it has fantastic features, fantastic build quality, and gives you all the features of the Z370 chipset for a B360 price. Now there are some Z370 boards, which is a higher tier board than the B360 board, that are around $100, but they skip out on a lot of features. Now this gives you all the features that you'd pretty much find on a Z370 board, well, at least most of them, but at a $100 price mark, but you don't get overclocking. So if you're okay with not being able to overclock or you don't plan on overclocking, I think this is going to be a great board for you. The only thing that's limiting about it is the RAM speed only goes up to 2866 megahertz, but for most Intel processors, that's perfectly fine. If you're doing Ryzen, however, you would want at least 3000 megahertz to get the most performance out of your processor. And also, if you want to slot in an i7 or i5, this board can definitely handle them, and it gives you a solid upgrade path for the future. For the RAM, we have 16 gigs of DDR4 Ripjaws V RAM from G.Skill. It's a 3000 megahertz kit, and it's 16 gigs, so it pretty much just gives you the maximum performance you'll probably need for gaming, and is found for around $130 to $120, sometimes $140, depending on where the price is for RAM. RAM goes up and down as well, but is on a trend going downward, but I'll say $130 just to be safe. But this is a great kit of RAM, very reliable and fast at the same time. Highly recommended for the price that you're getting this for, especially if you can find it cheaper. For storage, we're using this SP 256GB drive. It has fantastic read and write speeds, and I picked this up for around $40, and you can find these for $40 reliably. It has very good memory, a great memory controller, and something that rivals at least Samsung in terms of read and write speeds and reliability. It comes with a 3-year warranty, and it's a great drive overall, and for $40 I really can't complain about it. And it's a reliable drive, and that's important. I've used these in plenty of builds before, and it has raving reviews. Now it depends on the type of SP drive that you get. Now this is the SP-A55, which uses a better type of memory than some of the other SP drives, so keep that in mind. but overall a great drive and I highly recommend it, especially for 40 bucks. So we'll be putting Windows 10 on here, and you can get Windows 10 for free and not activate it, and you get 99% of its features. For our CPU cooler, we have the Gammaxx GT from Deepcool, and all the stuff from Deepcool here was sent over to feature for this build, and I really like all the stuff here to be featured into this build. So the Gammaxx GT is around 50 bucks. It's an RGB cooler, but the beauty of RGB, in case you don't like it, is you can turn it to one color or static. Well, yeah, that's the same thing, or you can turn it off. So that's the beauty of RGB. It doesn't need to be turned on, and this is a good CPU cooler. I haven't personally tested it, but I've used Deepcool's products in the past for CPU cooling, and it has a very good track record and reliability. But yeah, if you guys want to upgrade your processor like later down the road and you don't want to have to buy a whole nother CPU cooler, this is going to be a good first step forward to get yourself something that's going to be lasting you down the line. So this can definitely support up to i7 processors. And to accompany our CPU cooler here, we have some RGB fans, which again, you can turn off the RGB or set it to one color if you want to. It's perfectly fine. I've been using Deepcool's fans in my personal build as well, and they are quiet, they look good, and they perform well. So I'm going to be highly recommending these RF120s. They're around $45 each for a 3-pack. So you get 3 RGB fans with a controller and also Aura Sync compatibility for 45 bucks, which is actually a pretty solid deal and a good performing fan at that. So I'm going to be recommending these. You don't have to get 2 packs of them. That's $90 in fans, but still you don't have to get 6 of them. You can get just 1 pack for 45 bucks. And I believe you would be fine. Accompanying the fans, we'll be putting them into this Matrexx 55 case from Deepcool as well. And this is a $40 case. And don't let it fool you. That's actual tempered glass in the front and tempered glass on the side here. And it has no power supply shroud or rubber grommets or anything fancy like that. That's perfectly fine for $40. I really can't ask for much more. It has good ventilation from the front and the top, so this case will be lasting you throughout your parts upgrades and stuff like that to be properly cooling them. People buy these a lot. They will just completely buy out all these cases, and what happens is third-party sellers start jumping in and start selling these cases for more than MSRP. So make sure that you're not paying more than MSRP, and make sure you're not buying from a third-party seller when you're paying over for it. So make sure it's coming from the actual seller. That's either coming from Deepcool, Amazon Marketplace, or Newegg Marketplace. So yeah, I'm just saying that now because it will most likely happen. Now there will be multiple links down in the description below for this to make sure that you get the best chance of finding it for 40 bucks, but I'm just saying that out here. We have the DQ750M power supply from Deepcool. This is a 750 watt power supply, and it's overkill for this build. I will admit, that's perfectly fine. It's a $120 power supply. It's also fully modular, and it's also white, which is a rare aesthetic for a lot of power supplies, and people do go for that sort of thing, so I will mention it. But the thing about this power supply is it's fully modular, and it's also gold rated at 80+ efficiency, and it also has a 5-year warranty. And Deepcool also makes reliable power supplies. Johnny Guru, who's a fantastic reviewer of power supplies, has made reviews of their previous power supplies, but has not made one for this because this is actually pretty new. And they have a pretty good track record as well. So don't discount Deepcool for not making good power supplies because you're not used to seeing them on the market, or they're not EVGA or Corsair. It will provide a good upgrade path in case you plan on getting a beefier processor or a beefier GPU. And lastly, we have our Saphire Nitro RX 584GB card. You can find these for around $200 to $180, sometimes $170, depending on the kind of deal that you can find these at. And if you want to get them used on eBay, you can find them for around $120 to $140, at least for the 4 gig cards. And it's an absolute beast at all these prices. For $200, it rivals the 1060, even performs better depending on the type of game that it is. And it just runs really well at 1080p, sometimes even 1440p, depending on the game, like I said. Fantastic card. Saphire makes a good card as well. It's a Nitro Plus edition, so it does come factory overclocked, so it will give you a better boost in performance out of the box than some of the other traditional cards that you'll find for RX 580s. So for $750, that's everything we have on the table here, quite literally, except for the hard drive, like I mentioned earlier. But with all that being said, let's finally get into this build.
and all you passing with your big feet. You cast me out, and all you passing with your big feet. You cast me out, and all you passing with your big feet. You cast me out, and all you passing with your big feet.
So yeah, this gaming PC did pretty well, and as you can tell, it's taken a long time to finish this video and I now have facial hair. Yeah. Anyways, talking a little bit more about the PC, most of the time when we were gaming and we were maxing out the GPU at 100%, the CPU was still left at around 84%, maybe even sometimes 80%, leaving some headroom for even more FPS or even a beefier GPU. So the bottleneck wasn't even in the 8100, it was the RX 580 when it came to 1080p ultra settings. And with the performance that we got, we could probably squeeze out 1440p medium to high setting gaming with that RX 580. Perhaps with the 8 gig variant, you might have a little bit better performance with that, obviously, but for the 4 gig version, did very well. Now it was maxed out and it was running around 78 to 80 degrees Celsius, which is normal for most GPUs when they're completely maxed out. And the CPU was never really going over 55 to 58 degrees Celsius, and the ambient temperature was around 26 or 27 degrees Celsius, so keep that in mind. So overall, it performed well in terms of noise, thermals, and just raw performance. And if you can find a nice deal on that 8100, you are honestly getting one of the best value to performance gaming CPUs in terms of just FPS to dollar, in my opinion. So with all that being said, before you guys go, if you want to help support the channel, because these videos take forever to make, you can help support through Patreon donation, buying some merch that I'm not wearing once again, but I do have some cool PC art like that for your setup if you want. If you guys want to see more build guides and videos like this, I have more relative content over here. And like I said, help support the channel if you can. If not, no worries. Your view, subscription, and comments mean the world to me. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.